Have you ever asked yourself why almost all witches on the internet are white? Or maybe where the witches of color are? I have, for sure. And in today's video, I'm gonna try to answer these very questions. Hi! On this channel, we talk about independent spirituality and folk magic for free spirits. My name is Aster, and in today's video, we are going to discuss race on the online magical community. And for this topic, I ask you to kindly and respectfully share your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And I say it like that because I know that racial discussions can get pretty heated, so yeah, just be respectful to other people, okay? But everyone is welcome to share their thoughts down below, so don't hesitate. Also, I'm going to focus on magic online on the internet, especially on YouTube. So I'm not really addressing TikTok creators or Instagram creators because we know of many fantastic channels that we all adore and who do fantastic jobs on this community, but most of them are white, aren't they? And as much as I really love and really appreciate the content of American and European content creators, witchy content creators, as a woman of color, I can't help myself from asking where other Black content creators are. And when it comes to that, the only person that immediately comes to mind is Mint Fairy, who, by the way, has the best laughter of the entire internet. Her laughter is contagious, okay? When she laughs, I laugh. It's just a natural consequence. Mint Fairy is basically the only person of color with more than 100,000 subscribers on the magic slash witchcraft niche on YouTube. As far as I know, maybe there's somebody else out there who I don't know about. And by the way, if you know any influencers, content creators that are Black and are talking about magic, spirituality, and witchcraft, especially witchcraft, please drop their names in the comment section because I would love to get to know other creators of color. Me, particularly, I come from a very diverse cultural background. I descend from Native Brazilians, Africans, and also Europeans. So when you look at me, you see a result of everything that has happened in Brazil since the 1500s. Genocide, slavery, and immigration. I am a descendant of all of that. A little bit of everything. And I like to identify myself as a witch precisely because I want to kind of help reinvent this word and get rid of the negative connotation that it still has. I think that in order to achieve that transformation and new meaning, we really have to embrace the word and use it as a statement, as a flag that represents something universal. This video is going to be divided into two main topics that I will use to try and answer the question of the title of this video: why most witches are white. The first block is basically around the evident fact that witchcraft is a European concept. And we all know the story. Witchcraft and witches were pretty much created by the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages as a power control kind of measure. They utilized themselves of these terms to demonize all of the religions that were not Christian, and like that they would be able to gain absolute power over people. The term witchcraft and witches was taken to other continents thanks to colonization, where again it was utilized to demonize local belief systems and religions. And like that, the colonizer would be able to keep the colonies under control using religion. So magical forms of spirituality have always existed all over the world in multiple different cultures, including Black cultures and indigenous cultures for sure. But those forms of spirituality had never been originally called witchcraft, and neither have the practitioners been called witches before colonization. So today there are many magical practitioners who do almost the same things that a modern witch does, but they don't call themselves witches because that's not a traditional term. And on top of that, those words, witch and witchcraft, were once used as an instrument of oppression and genocide. So it's of course understandable that many people today don't want to use words, like they don't want to call themselves words that were part of the process of exterminating their ancestors. It's totally understandable if somebody from different ethnical groups don't want to call themselves that. Like, for example, if we think about hoodoo practitioners, I don't think that they call themselves witches, do they? No, I don't think so. And also when we look at Brazil, who has a plethora of different magical religious formats, the practitioners of those spiritual formats, they don't call themselves witches. Sometimes sorcerers, yes, but not witches. And they also don't say that what they are practicing is witchcraft. Sorcery sometimes, yes, but not witchcraft. Another very important reason why we don't see a balanced number of witches of color on the internet talking about magic and witchcraft can be a little something called structural racism. And to talk about that, of course, I will be coming from my personal cultural background, but I'm pretty sure that Black people who come from other colonized countries will be able to relate to what I'm about to say. Because structural racism exists, I dare say it exists everywhere where Black people have been slaves in a point in history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Brazil was the last country of the Americas to abolish slavery in 1888. And it does blow my mind to think that my grandma, my mom's mother, was born 33 years after that, in 1921. I hope my math is right, because I'm not good with numbers. But anyway, as I was saying, in 1888, when slavery was abolished in Brazil, 1.5 million slaves were freed overnight with no preparation, no support, and nowhere to go. They had absolutely no chance of properly integrating society. They were simply shooed outside of the farms because all of a sudden they were free. And from this historic heritage of slavery, misery, and a complete lack of resources, we end up having this thing called structural racism. Structural racism is something inbuilt in many cultures where slavery has been experienced. Like, for example, the underlying idea that people of color are somehow less capable of doing things. Where do you think that comes from? Well, because centuries ago, when they were tossed on the streets with no education, no money, and nowhere to go, yeah, as a matter of fact, they were not able of accomplishing much. They weren't. They didn't have any tools to accomplish anything. So they kind of earned the fame of being less capable, as though it was their free choice of being so. And like that, an entire idea and prejudice was built around that reality, and to this day, people still carry that kind of mindset in the back of their heads. But structural racism goes beyond mere prejudice. Yeah, it does. It will also impact opportunities and the range of choices that a Black person can make in their life. Because if your ancestors, like your direct lineage, was in such a poor condition, I think that poor, the word poor doesn't really cut it. It is misery. It is despair. It is famine. It is having like absolutely no one for you, nowhere to turn to, and not knowing what you are going to eat, and going hungry, and being on the freaking street for God knows how long. If those were your ancestors, what could they possibly have left for you as a heritage? They will not be able to give you the best education. They will not be able to give you the best mindset and self-confidence and self-esteem about yourself and your family and who you are in general, which are things that do matter a lot. Editing Aster here, and there is something that I need to include in this part of the video, because word has it that the Brazilian government back then actually had the goal of really exterminating the slaves, because they didn't want Brazil to turn out to be a Black country. So the way in which they did liberate the slaves back then was kind of on purpose. And I will take this opportunity to ask Americans how exactly, like if you are American and you happen to be watching this video, could you please share in the comments how exactly the end of slavery happened in the US? How was it different from the Brazilian way in which things happened? And what were like the social consequences for the Black population? Because I would love to know how different it was, or if it was similar. But yeah, that's how things went down in Brazil. Our Black ancestors have experienced severe misery and lack of resources on purpose. Misery doesn't give any space for you to trust in yourself, to believe in your capabilities, to believe that you can go farther and better and really develop yourself to your very best version. And this extreme situation of poverty and lack of resources is just passed down generation after generation. So what I mean with all of this is that Black people are, to this day, just trying to survive. Too busy trying to put food on the table and a roof over their heads, and at the end of the day, they don't have the time or the energy to pick up a witchcraft book, a magic book, and learn about magic. Such a crushing reality doesn't give you any perspective of believing in magic in the first place, because reality is always pushing you down all the time. You can't believe that energy work and whatever meditation is going to take you anywhere. Yeah, and when you have such a crushing reality upon you, you can't really see beyond your struggles. You simply can't. Some people might argue, oh yeah, but white folks can be poor too. Yeah, I know. I totally know that. But poverty among white people comes from completely different reasons. It does not come from a lack of opportunities, prejudice, and of course the social economical heritage of slavery. White people were not slaves in the Americas. Or am I wrong? I don't think so. White people can become poor and be poor due to, like, for example, bad financial choices, bad coping mechanisms, also addiction to drugs or to gambling, but not because their entire lineage didn't have the right of even having a name, let alone property, for the past 300 years. So trust me, it is different. It is very different. What does all of this have to do with being a witch on the internet? Well, when you have all of that baggage weighing upon your shoulders, it's simply not a priority to come to the internet and join the spiritual community. Anyone who does create content, or anyone who has tried creating content, knows that this is hard work. This is a full-time job, you guys. I spend an entire week working in one video for YouTube. Maybe it doesn't look like it, but yeah. And by the way, what I'm gonna say now applies to all the creators, regardless of race and cultural background. If there's a creator that you enjoy, you like their content, support them, okay? Support them with your view, with your like, with your subscription, you know, become a Patreon, buy their merch, because this is a full-time job. It is insane work. You like somebody's work, do your best to support them, because you have no idea how hard they are working to keep good quality content coming for free to your subscription box. Just wanted to mention that real quick. I know how much representation matters. That's why I'm here. And I really appreciate the comments that I have been receiving talking exactly about that they are happy to see a content creator of color talking about spirituality and witchcraft and magic. It seems that people are very happy to see that, and I am very happy to be here providing it. But at the same time, sometimes I kind of worry if I am going to be able to keep up with the work that I am developing here if I get a full-time job, which is something that I am looking for, because yeah, currently I don't earn anything from the internet. Bills need to be paid, don't they? I have had an interview today, a job interview, and I wonder what is going to happen to my content once I start a 9-to-5. I will do my best, because I understand how important it is for me to be here. Other people who look like me, they need to see themselves on this platform and on this niche, this community. It is important. This is about representation. This is about diversity. This is about people feeling seen and important, and that their trajectory also matter. Even if they don't have flowy, wavy hair, they also matter. They can also work magic. Doesn't matter the shape of their hair, the color of their skin. But in order to arrive in that conclusion, you gotta see yourself on the content you are consuming. So yeah, I am kind of rambling right now, but that's why I'm here. I am here to tell you that magic made a huge positive impact in my life in a moment when I was all alone and I needed help. I'm here to tell you that your practice doesn't need to be lengthy, fancy looking, or expensive to be effective. Like I have mentioned in previous videos, the place where I come from, all it takes is a candle and a glass of water, and boom, there you go. And I'm also here to tell you that you don't need to be white to call yourself a witch. I know how hard life can be, but I also know that we do have the power to change it. And I want you to be aware of that. Now, if you would like to go a little bit further into this topic, I have a few book recommendations for you. First and foremost, we have Women Race and Class by legendary Angela Davis. This is a must for anyone who wants to understand the place of the Black woman in a society where slavery was a thing. Another very interesting one is The Blacklist. This book covers exactly structural racism in America, so especially for American people watching this video right now, this is going to really blow your mind. So those were my recommendations for the English speakers. And if you can read in Portuguese, I have 2 more books to recommend to you. Racismo Estrutural, which means structural racism, by author Silvio Almeida. Also, another recommendation is Quem Tem Medo do Feminismo Negro? Who's Afraid of the Black Feminism? By Jamila Ribeiro, where she talks about Black feminism. All of these 4 books will be linked in the description in case you want to buy them. So if we combine these 2 things, witchcraft as a European concept and structural racism, of course, that there are less Black content creators on the magical community online. If we think about it, it is the same thing everywhere, in companies, in politics, in like everywhere. There are less Black people performing important roles, being protagonists of something, and there are even less when it comes to Black women. I want to give you guys a little list. It is really a little list. There are very few content creators here that I was able to find, but I wanted to point out some other Black content creators other than the Mint Fairy, which I have mentioned at the beginning of the video. So there is, for example, the Witch of Darklight. She's super dedicated with her content. She posts super frequently. There is, of course, the Bronx Witch. I'm not sure if she's still posting content. I just had to mention the Bronx Witch because she's one of the few people of color that are on the internet calling themselves a witch. Another content creator that I really like her content, but she doesn't call herself a witch. I have never seen. Maybe she does, but I didn't see it. She talks about a lot of pretty witchy stuff. Like, for example, she has a video about scrying, about breaking curses and hexes, something like that. She does a lot of divination, so she's pretty witchy, all right, okay? It is Behatty Life. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Her content is absolutely great. She's very engaging, I would say. And her content is definitely spiritual, but I don't think she calls herself a witch. And once again, if you know about other content creators that I have not mentioned here, and that is Black content creators who call themselves witches, you know about others, drop their names in the comment section down below so more people can discover about them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, practice makes perfect. So let's go witching. Bye.